all set? Okay. All present and accounted for, right? Okay, Brooke, 15 seconds. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, the second in the run-up forums, political forums for the November 3rd balloting here in Warren County. Voters will be going to the polls starting in early voting Wednesday, October 14, and of course the final day to cast your vote in the live election, as we call it, is November 3. This evening, the Southern Standard WCPI Political Forum Series is happy to be partnered with WCS-TV, the cable television outreach service of the Warren County School System. We appreciate their cooperation and support. Brooke Grissom will be handling the house sound and the audio feed to WCPI this evening and to WCS-TV. That's channel 180 if you have BLTV. If you don't have BLTV, you won't get that channel 180, but you can join us on YouTube. The YouTube upload will be presented probably just right after this live event closes out here at the Warren County High School auditorium. I'd like to thank Mr. Clark George, the executive principal at Warren County High School, for making these facilities available to us. The only place that we could find enough social distancing so that we could carry this program out pursuant to the CDC COVID-19 precautions. Connie Terry is stage manager this evening. Richard E. Myers, a great volunteer at Public Radio WCPI, is providing the studio feed, and that is a live broadcast on 91.3. Seth Wright is our timekeeper, back again in his familiar role as timekeeper, and we'll go over the operation of the time signal before each event. James Clark is our moderator-in-chief this evening.
How are you, Bill?
Well, doing fine. Hope you've had a good day at the Southern Standard.
It's good to be here in a free democracy to hear what these candidates have to say, and hopefully when folks go to the polls, they can make an informed decision.
Well, that's what it's all about, James, is voter education. And as we've said many times, one of the great virtues of the Southern Standard WCPI political forums is that it allows candidates who are duly qualified and registered on the ballot to come before the voters, make their case for why they should be elected, and do it all totally without cost. It is a public service.
Absolutely, free of charge. Anybody can come in here, listen to these candidates, and say, hey, I want to vote for that guy or that gal, and go to the polls and do just that.
All right, well, that's what we're going to do, and without further delay, we're going to get started with our County Commission 5th District. There is an uncompleted term. How did that come about? This happens from time to time. Commissioners are unable to complete their terms to which they're elected. So what happened in this case in the 5th District, James?
It was Lori Judkins. She moved out of the 5th District, and thereby, by the bylaws of the County Commission, you're supposed to live in the district in which you serve. She moved out of the district, so thus there's this open seat. Okay.
We have two candidates qualified for that position. They are Brad T. Hillis and Ben Myers, going down alphabetically, the order in which they'll appear on the ballot. We drew for speaking order earlier this evening before we went on the air. And James, how much time will each candidate have? Will there be questions, question and answer? What's the format?
Yeah, we're going to start with Mr. Myers. He'll have 4 minutes to make an opening statement. That's his time. He can say whatever he likes in those 4 minutes. Then they'll have one follow-up question, and then that will conclude their portion of this event.
Okay, and I see that Mr. Myers is first in the randomized drawing that we did for speaking order. Mr. Brad Hillis will be second and last. Now, as far as the timing signal, gentlemen, if you'd look over here at the foot of the stage, there's a light signal. Right now it's on blue, is it? What? Okay, we're on white for neutral. Okay, when the green is on, that's your time to speak, and we're doing 3 minutes on green, is that right? Okay, and then when you get down to that end of the 3rd minute, it goes to yellow. We had some debate as to whether that's really yellow, but just use your imagination, interpret that as yellow, okay? And then when you're completely out of time at 4 minutes, it'll turn red. So if we're ready to start, we'll go first to Mr. Ben Myers for your opening statement. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, James, and the Southern Standard for having us here tonight. It's a great opportunity to get out and talk to the community, and so you can hear a little bit about what we have to say, where we come from. I'm Ben Myers, and my family, my wife is Ann Myers, and she works here at the high school, and my 3 children is George, Catherine, and Mary, and they all go to Hickory Creek. My wife, she's a Spanish teacher, is what she does, and she's also the cross-country coach. I grew up in the nursery business, working in my family farm, and then transitioned into the timber and forestry business for my career, and have been in that for basically 23 years now. And that's given me a lot of opportunity to, you kind of want to serve and give back to the community, and then also want to improve the community so that I can have a successful business, both for my family and then also for my employees, as well as provide a great space for my kids to come back to, hopefully one day, after they're grown. And so, why I really want to run for this commission seat is to help create policies to keep Warren County. Right now in Warren County, we're able to provide above average services for a below average cost of living. When you compare that to Nashville or places in Western North Carolina, we're a fairly cheap place to live, but also we have great places to visit and great places to work. And so how do we create policies to do that? Well, one of the key pieces is ensure that our children are attracted back to Warren County to raise their families, so that that's enjoyable for as a parent, as a grandparent down the road. That's what one of the key things we want to be able to attract our family members back. And and how do we do that? We do that by supporting existing businesses. Whether that's in manufacturing, car parts, tires, great hardwood flooring manufacturing here in McMinnville and Warren County, or growing trees, for nursery or timber, and then also even with our public utilities, how do we encourage those public utilities to grow and to serve other communities? Because that creates great places to work for other people in our community. It's not just about all about manufacturing and new jobs. It's about sustaining those good municipal jobs and good municipal utility jobs that are out there. And then if we create that and maintain that policy of supporting those existing businesses, we'll attract new business by default. Whether that's new manufacturing, or the biggest thing right now in this climate is remote workers. Because of our great place that we have to live, there's a huge influx right now of remote workers, people looking for retreats, like a place to get out of the city, or a place to find a place so they can fully remove from the city and work here, and then visit you go to work in the city 2 days a week or once a month, whatever their employer desires on that. And then the third thing in creating that good community is to leverage access to our natural resources. We've got 3 great rivers, direct access to the Cumberland Plateau, and that just makes it a great place to live and work and visit. And so that helps us bring in more tourism dollars, which help support our community. And then talking about community support, one of the key things that I want to continue to do is support those community groups such as the Rescue Squad, the Magnus Library, Young Men United. All those groups leverage our tax dollars, through through their volunteer work with, through stable and reasonable funding. We've got to maintain those funding levels to do that. And so that's the basic idea that I have and wanted to get across to everybody. So thank you for the time tonight, and I'll wrap up.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Ben Myers, one of the two candidates for the remainder of the term for 5th District Warren County Commissioner. Our second candidate, the second out of two, is Mr. Brad Hillis. James, we're ready for Brad.
Yes, sir, I believe we are.
Okay, we'll start your time right now. Remember, 4 minutes for opening statement, okay?
Well, I want to thank both of you too, the WCPI and the Standard. It's a great opportunity to have this for all of us. And my name is Brad Hillis. I'm a native and lifelong resident of Warren County. I'm fortunate to have both my parents, Dickie and Carol Hillis, and my wife, Kim, and we live on Crane Road in the 5th District. We have 3 adult children, Cody and Taylor and Haley, and 3 wonderful grandsons, and one that should be here maybe right around election time. We're not sure, but close. And I've been an employee at UPS for the past 32 years. We're members of Westwood Church of Christ. And of those 32 years at UPS, 25 plus of those have been right here in Warren County. And that, when you see people from the business owner to the assembly worker or the nursery owner or the field worker, you meet people on a daily basis from all walks of life. And over those years, on a daily basis, you build relationships with them, and you watch their kids grow up. You see the struggles, and you see them grow positively. But you in that relationship, when you begin to talk to them, you hear their concerns about the county, and over the years, I just as I look back, the county, the community as a whole, it's been good to me and my family. All my adult children live here in the county. My grandkids are growing up here and going to school here. We've got a great education system. And you hear, basically, you get to feeling, you build that relationship and you feel how people feel about the county and what their expectations are, what their dislikes are, or what they wish would change. And it's made me look back now that I can give back to them and help them and understand the diversity we have in the county, so that as a commissioner or any level of local government, that when you make a decision how it affects people in their daily lives, there is no one policy that is a blanket for everybody. There's negatives and positives to the way it affects different families, and I think as any policymaker in the city or county, we need to take that into consideration as we're making decisions for the county. What's going to be best? What's the most common sense approach to help the working families of this county? And how can we promote the county to help? I'm a big advocate of local business. How can we maintain, I see at work every day how online sales is affecting our local businesses. How can we help those prosper and add new ones? How can we make the right decisions for our working people so that their families can grow up and our children can grow up and live here and stay here and work and raise their families here? I was out of time.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Brad Hillis. Okay, are you ready for some questions, James?
Yeah, I think they get one question.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of already briefed them of the question over there, and I guess we'll start with Mr. Hillis. But the question is, if elected, you will serve 2 years on the Warren County Commission. If you could accomplish anything during those 2 years here in Warren County, what would that be? And that's a question for Mr. Hillis and then to Mr. Myers.
I think one of the biggest issues not only Warren County is going to face, but all counties in the next coming 18 months to 2 years. I don't think we've totally saw the lasting effects of COVID yet. There's going to come budget time next year. There's going to be some tough decisions have to be made. I'm sure there's been a lot of people out of work and a lot of businesses closed because of it. So there's not going to be any way to get around some tax revenue loss. I think we're going to have to make some really common sense decisions between our needs and our wants. One thing, as I stated, I would really like to help also was I'd like to help promote our county. Tourism is a big draw. It would really help our tax base. You know, we've got the new Hampton Inn coming in. We can use that to our advantage. We've got the new spec building that's right ready to occupy. Our water is just a great resource for us to promote our county. Warren County, I've worked in all the surrounding counties. Warren County has as much to offer as anybody if we can promote ourselves and prosper from it. But I think one of the biggest issues coming up is going to be the budget and the lasting effects of COVID. It's going to be, you know, that possibly nobody knows yet, but it's probably going to be some tough decisions when it comes budget time.
Okay, that question goes over to Mr. Myers. Do we
Yes.
need to repeat the question?
No. So what I would like to accomplish within a 2-year term would dovetail into what Mr. Hillis was saying, is to help bring in the remote workers so that our tax base doesn't decrease, that we see people buying houses here, because we're competing with other rural communities around Nashville, around Chattanooga, and it's our job to draw the people here so that they make the choice to live in McMinnville and spend their money in Warren County, in our area, as opposed to another area that's out there.
Okay. Anything else from you, James?
No, that'll do it for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't prepare the candidates for a question, but let me ask one real quick, and we'll take not more than 1 minute to answer, and then we'll go to Mr. Myers first and then to Mr. Hillis. You know, in every election cycle, we hear office seekers from the local level up to the state and national level talk about fiscal prudence with a strong inclination toward fiscal conservatism, in other words, low taxes, and at the same time they talk about making civic progress, moving our community forward. And the fact of the matter is, economically, to move the community forward, sometimes we have to invest, we have to spend some money. So we have this fine balancing act between how we set our tax rates, which will be part of your job if you're elected, setting the county tax rate, and doing those things that are an investment in the future, investment in the quality of life, investment in education, investment in infrastructure. So let me ask you this, let's take 1 minute. If you have a proposal coming to you for an increase in funding to support pay raises for our teachers and school support personnel, how would you respond to that? First, over to Mr. Myers.
You always want to be increasing and ensure that your pay rates are competitive to other communities, because if they're not competitive, we're going to be losing our best and brightest teachers, workers, leaders, and we have to maintain competitive, if not being a little bit more competitive, to draw the best and brightest to the community.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Hillis, we'll wind up with you.
I think that gets back where I just spoke about the budget and the needs and wants. Our education, you've got to fund it. I mean, that's where we have to sit down at budget time and look at what we've got to work with, and our priorities come first, and education and essential services are naturally got to come first. We can't, of course, our volunteer programs, they're vital to the community too. So that's where it gets down to where, you know, we have to work within our means, just like at our home.
Okay. All right. Anything further from you, James?
No, that'll do it for me, Bill.
Okay, we're going to do a little stage reset here. So, gentlemen, if you would go back to your seats out in the auditorium, we're going to ask the speakers in our next feature, that is for McMinnville Mayor, to come up. We have Ryle Chastain. Mr. Chastain, let me suggest you take that table closest to you. Mr. Brett Simmons, if you would take the table over here on my right. And Billy Wood, did Billy check in with us? Okay, Billy? Okay. Billy, we'll put you in that middle place because you've got speaking position number 2. Brett Simmons will be position 3, and Ryle Chastain position 1. All right, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you being here. Nikki, we appreciate your being here. I was getting a little concerned that James wasn't here quite as early as maybe I thought he should have been, so we were going to press you into service in being the James for the night, being our moderator number 1. But good to have you here. And for our audiences, this program is being streamed live right now in real time. Nikki, is that right, on Facebook? The Southern Standard Facebook page? Okay, great. And also on WCS-TV Channel 180. WCS-TV will be uploading that to their YouTube service, so you can go back and if you didn't get enough of it the first time around, you can just dip into it again as much as you want to.
Watch it again and again.
All right. James, I forgot to wish you a happy Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day.
Okay, it was a fun one.
Was it a good one? Okay.
Probably the best ever.
All right, very good. Okay, let's get started. And in speaking order, how many minutes for opening statements, James?
It's 4 minutes each.
Okay, so we'll do the same thing. 3 minutes on green. When they get to after 3 minutes, you'll have a half a minute of yellow. 1 minute yellow, okay. And then red, that means you're out of time. So, gentlemen, if you would, keep your eye on the light tower right here in the middle of the stage. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. Ryle Chastain. Let's start with your opening statement.
Thank you, Bill, WCPI, the Southern Standard, and Warren County High School for hosting us tonight. Thank you also to WCS-TV for airing tonight's forum. Again, I'm Ryle Chastain. With the exception of my time in college, I've been in McMinnville very nearly all my life. I'm the son of Brian and Teresa Chastain and married to Paige Hunter, with whom I have a daughter, Elizabeth James. I am a registered nurse by trade and currently work at St. Thomas River Park Hospital in administration as a nurse manager and play a role in helping to oversee each of the clinical departments there. I'm also nearing the completion of my master's degree in nursing, after which time I will begin work as a family nurse practitioner to help bolster the medical community here in McMinnville. I have been on the city's board of mayor and alderman for the last 6 years, the most recent 2 as vice mayor. In that time, I have served on every committee overseeing each of the city's departments and have chaired streets and safety. My tenure on the board has also allowed me opportunities to serve other organizations with sitting terms at McMinnville Electric, 911, and the Child Advocacy Center. I also sat a term on Ascension St. Thomas's Nursing Practice Council. Under the current administration, I feel the city of McMinnville has made great strides as a community. The city has made considerable investments the last 6 years, and those investments have been returned to us in the form of investments back into the community by the private sector. To quote a recent newspaper article by James Clark, I can't recall a time when McMinnville has been busier. Some of the accomplishments made by the city during my time in service include supporting the recruitment of the Robotics and Mechatronics Training Center, supporting efforts to keep open the driver license testing center, an updated and modernized water treatment plant, renovation of the Milner Family Recreation Center, an extension of the Greenway, bathrooms and exercise equipment along our walking trails and our parks, relocation of the police department and the consolidation of all city services at City Hall, the implementation of a critical response team and acquisition of a new K-9 for the police department, completion of the Park Theater, technology infrastructure grades at City Hall such as citywide networking, an IT director and online bill pay, as well as a dog park and skate park. These are but a few things we've been able to provide you, the residents of McMinnville, and there are more on the way, including kayak launch stations at Pepper Branch Park and the implementation of Wi-Fi in the downtown area. Both projects will be funded by grants and will come at little or no cost to the taxpayer. McMinnville is poised to grow. Organizations across the state, such as the Upper Cumberland Development District, Main Street, Tennessee, and Retire Tennessee, laud McMinnville as an attractive destination to live and visit due to our proximity to places like Nashville, Chattanooga, Murfreesboro, and Cookeville, due to our low costs of living and the amenities we have. I care for this community and look forward to being your next city mayor to help ensure McMinnville continues to grow, invest in, and improve itself sustainably and responsibly. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ryle Chastain will go to number 2 in the stacking order, Mr. Billy Wood. Stacking order was determined by drawing at random for speaking position. Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Billy Wood. I'm a 63-year-old husband, father, grandfather, and businessman. My mother is the most energetic 90-year-old you'll ever meet in your life, and yes, I had her permission to use her age. I tell you this so you'll understand my perspective on our government's role. We need facilities to attract young people to our area. They are our future. We need McMinnville to be affordable as well as user-friendly and innovative for those who are now raising their children. But we're obligated to watch over those who are on fixed incomes. Citizens should not have to decide between eating and paying their utility bills or filling their prescriptions and paying their taxes. Every citizen needs to know if they need police, fire, or first responders, that they will come. Folks, we have only one Chamber of Commerce, one Industrial Development Board, one Senior Center, one Library, Rescue Squad, Tourism Development Board, Crisis Pregnancy Center. We have multiple groups trying to feed our hungry and keep our young people engaged in activities, but they have to be assured that they have consistent funding. They cannot grow and serve our community or plan for the future if they constantly have to hold their breath every budget year wondering if local government's going to fund them or cut them off. Now, folks, experience matters in times like these. I spent 4 years on the school board, 5 years as vice mayor, 8 years as a city alderman. I've served on every city committee multiple times. I learned city government serving with wonderful people who, like me, had no private agenda. Men like Royce Davenport, Norman Roan, Bill Lively, Glenn Moore, Herb Grazer, Judge Dempster. I have only a public agenda. Folks, this is fact. I left office 6 years ago. The city had almost $6.5 million in reserves. Now, we knew after successfully executing the sales tax recovery and the fact that Warren County had not raised taxes in almost 2 decades, they would have to raise taxes. Not one county commissioner wanted to do it. They had no choice. We had many discussions. If the county goes up 40 cents, the city can go down 40 cents. And for the first time in our history, a tax increase would be revenue neutral to a city taxpayer. It didn't happen. The money was kept. It was spent. Folks, these statements are all public records. You can look at them for yourself. The fund balance at the end of 2017 was $6.8 million. Projected to be at the end of this year, $3.1 million. From 6.8 to 3.1. Simply put, the city of McMinnville has spent $3.7 million more in the last 4 years than they've had coming in. To further complicate the situation, we now have a $10 million project with 60 change orders. Now you have to ask, if this was your project and you were writing checks from your account, would you go ahead and write the check and tell your person that we're going to talk about this later? No, you would not. You have to deal with problems in business as well as in life as they arise. The payment on this project will be for 20 years. This project alone, the payment will rise to $659,000 a year, and you and I are obligated to pay it. If the state of Tennessee sees a downturn in revenues, they will not pass a deficit budget. They'll cut back on state shared revenues to the city and the county. For the last 2 years, all city employees have been shortchanged. Budgets were balanced on their backs. Folks, if we don't get a handle on this and get a handle on it now, we're going to look up and realize that the light at the end of the tunnel is a freight train headed in our direction. Now, I don't care who your daddy is. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care which neighborhood you live in. If you live in McMinnville, you are a stockholder in this city, and your voice will be heard. My name is Billy Wood, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. I saw that Seth was getting the gavel ready over here, but you got in. We'll allow a few minutes for you to finish your thought. Okay, let's go over to our third speaker in the order in which they drew in the random assortment, Mr. Brett Simmons. So we'll start with you, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Zickman. First and foremost, I would like to thank WCPI, the Southern Standard, Warren County School TV, and obviously Warren County High School for allowing us to be here today. My name's Brett Simmons. I'd say if most of you know me as the owner of Mud Bombs. I took over in 2018. It's been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Not only has it helped me grow as an individual, but I think it's prepared me to be your mayor. We go through a lot of difficult decisions just on a daily basis, owning your own business. And going through that has made me realize that the two biggest things that I do on a daily basis is lead my people and give them a vision of what I want done so they can go out and do it. Going into that, I have basically a 5-point plan for my time as city mayor. Number one is to reopen the government and stay open. I'd like to, say thank you to the city board currently for reopening government as it is. But as we go forward, we can't afford to close it back down. As a business owner that pays taxes, and obviously as voters that pay taxes, I think it's a disservice for us to have to go to work every day while others that we're paying and investing in aren't having to work. The second thing is finding a permanent home for the police department. I think many of you know that my stepfather was a cop for 40 years, so I have a pretty good background in what they've dealt with while he was in service. They started out at the blue buildings, for what I can remember, and it was pretty run down. And, moving to Red Road was an upgrade, but it's nothing, everything ever been permanent for them. They need something that they can call their own and be proud of and would boost morale as a department. And the third would be to fully utilize some of our city assets. I think, the current boards did a decent job of getting us some things that are nice, like the Civic Center is going to be nice, even though we may have overspent on it. So now that we have it, we have to make sure that we utilize it to draw people into McMinnville. You can have ball tournaments. I remember in the 90s when I was a kid, we had concerts. What's stopping us from doing that again? Also, the blue building is, to me, the crown jewel of what we have. It's a beautiful piece of property that if we're not going to use it as a city, we need to find somebody that can develop it, and we can, piggyback on that by making taxpayer dollars. And also the Park Theater as well. It's beautiful, but we're seeing our revenues fall there. We need to reassess our game plan of what we're doing. The fourth one is, I don't think that we necessarily need to cut spending a lot. I'm sure there's some wasteful spending in there. I think we need to reassess where we're spending our money at. You go back the last 2 years, no city employees have gotten their COLA raises. As a business owner, the biggest thing that I think you need to invest in are people. And that's not what we're doing right now. We're investing in things, buildings, and things like that. The fifth is I think we need to rein in some of the regulations that we do have on private development. You go back to like Auntie Mattie's, Soul Food to Go. It's a good place to eat for lunch. But, the developer there tried to redo the building, do some things out front, made the place look a lot better, only for the city to come in and tell him he's got to take his sign down. It's a direct quote from the developer. He said, it makes it hard to do business in McMinnville. I don't think that's what we're looking for. If we're looking for growth, we need jobs. And for jobs, we need to make it easy to do business in McMinnville. I'm Brett Simmons, and I humbly ask for your vote. A vote for me is a vote for the conservative way forward.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Our three aldermanic candidates, Ryle Chastain, Billy Wood, and Brett Simmons. James, you have some questions for us.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right.
So will we go in reverse order and start with Mr. Simmons?
think that's
and
a good idea.
Go down the line? Okay, I've heard a lot of things tonight, the Civic Center, Police Department. In the past, I've heard about streets, fire department, things like that. How would you prioritize? If elected mayor, what do you think? What should be the number one priority where the city spends its money? What should be the number two priority? Is there a list? I've heard Parks and Recreation has gotten too big a share of the pie. What would be your order and or your priorities on how the city should spend its money going forward?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to make sure, like I said, that we invest in our people. The people is what makes the city government work. Whether it's, the guy that picks up trash at the Civic Center, the city administrator. We have to make sure that we give them the best training, the best benefits, and everything else that we can within our budget. Behind that, I think you have to look into essential services. I mean, this year more than any has showed us what's essential and what's not. Let's go through what, was open. The police still had to work. The fire department still had to come to work every day. The people that picked up our trash, we still needed them to pick up our trash. Those are the things that we need to invest in first. Those are the necessities. So when we have a budget surplus, let's look at making sure they're at their, 100% before we start spending on things that are more like luxuries. My great-grandmother told me when I was a kid, you should never spend so much on luxuries that you can't afford the necessities. And if we're not careful, that's where we're getting at.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wood?
First thing you have to do, like any couple does, raising children, living their life, taking care of their parents, etc., you've got to balance your checkbook first. You have to lay out a financial plan. We all have big dreams, but if you can't pay for them, it's a different story. The first priority is going to be to balance the budgets. We need a 3-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year plan that needs to be discussed to see what those needs are. We can't forget about maintenance on these buildings. We have to maintain them. You have to plan your work and work your plan, just like your parents always told you when you were growing up. We have infrastructure issues that need to be worked on. 4 years ago, an I&I problem was brought to life about the wastewater. It's being inundated with sewer system, is being inundated with stormwater. I suggested to an individual then, stop collecting in lieu of tax payments today, and in 4 years, you'll have $1 million to start on the project with. Now you're looking at 3 years worth of rate increases. You have to use business sense. So to say, what will we do? What roof's going to leak next, James? I don't know. Do you? But you have to have money in the budget. What central heat and air unit's going to fail next? I don't know. Which city vehicle is going to drop an engine? Garbage trucks are not cheap. Fire trucks are not inexpensive. Police cars have to be well maintained. You don't know what's coming around the next curve. That's why number one is balance the budget, keep money in reserve for rainy day funds. As a gentleman said earlier, speaking about COVID, folks, economically, if we have a major downturn, we're going to be in a mess, and we have to be prepared for it. We hope it doesn't happen. No one wants to see it happen, but if it does, you have to have reserves in place to deal with it. You need to take care of maintenance on these buildings. No one's against parks and recreation at all. As I said earlier, if we don't going to attract young people to our community, we've got to have it. But growth is a major priority, as Mr. Simmons was saying a while ago, from a concept on a permit on a project to a permit being issued should be a matter of days and not weeks. And we are not exactly user-friendly, and that's the only way we'll raise any money. And it all feeds back to the first thing I said, balance the budget. I see a red light in the corner of my eye. He says got a stick in his hand, so I'm going to stop.
He had his hand going for the gavel. Okay. Let's, that question over to Mr. Chastain.
Well, I'm not sure where Mr. Wood gets his numbers from, because last year, in the budget year, the city only overspent by $100,000, which is far from what I would call catastrophic or out of control. For this next budget year, if the departments return 11% of the budget, which is expected to be the case, we will be perfectly balanced. Considering that fact, I would say considerable effort needs to be put in rehabilitating and maintaining our streets and sidewalks. Next would be increasing pay for our essential workers like police, fire, and public safety. And next, I think there has got to be some sort of plan for the blue building, whether it is letting it go to someone else, selling it to them, for them to do whatever they want with, or even if we knock it down and utilize the property, there has to be a plan in place for that property to be utilized. Thank you.
Request a chance to rebut since I was directly attacked and singled out. I get my information from public city budgets.
From
They're
the
in
same
Southern
place that
Standard.
I do, I know that you
Here
know.
they are in black and white. If the city is so flush with cash, the Southern Standard is also a wonderful place to go and look up what's going on with the city. Multiple times, tax increases are discussed.
Like the
Mike
ones you
Neal, thank God,
implemented in
refused to
9,
vote
10, and
for this
11.
budget because he said himself it had over $2 million worth of spending that wasn't covered in the budget. The list goes on and on and on. You cannot deny the facts. It's public record. Raul, I'm not picking on you, buddy, because it takes 4 people to do anything. And that's why I've said from the very beginning, I don't want it to get personal or ugly.
Then tell all the facts.
I'm telling all the facts. I have given the pure facts. I'll have them printed in the paper for you if that's what you'd like. I mean, do the math. As I said earlier, y'all's projected fund balance this year is projected to be $3.1 million. I'm just rounding
What
it.
will the actual be, Mr. Wood?
You won't know the actual till you get there. Yeah, that's correct. So when you ask me a question that can't be answered, you should know the answer to that.
Let's move on.
It was $6.8 million. That's $3.7 million. Do the math.
It's 5 now because we've invested in the community, Mr. Wood,
There was $6.5 million when I left office.
and there's 5 now. That's
No,
not $3
you're
million.
projecting, your budget, the city's budget projects $3.18 million at the end of this fiscal year. That is a far cry from $5 million.
The actual is always more than that.
Okay, I think
Okay.
that's a good stopping point right there.
Hey,
That-
hey, that was a good exchange. I appreciate that. But these,
Yeah, good, healthy
Mr.
discussion.
Chastain, Mr. Wood had about 4 minutes extra, so let's go over to Mr. Simmons if he wants to make some contribution for about 1 minute to that discussion about the budget.
I think it kind of goes on both of them. I mean, at one point, yes, I don't think the city is in good a shape as some people are trying to make it look like. You know, we've taken the lawsuit money from the city, the sales tax recovery, and it was supposed to be used as a capital outlay, and they've moved it to the general fund. That was something that they've done to kind of make numbers look a little bit better. But also at the same time, we can't just go across the board and say that we're going to cut spending, because at the end of the day, most of the time, if you're cutting spending, you're talking about cutting jobs, and I don't think McMinnville's prepared for that.
Okay, James, do you have another question?
All right, I do. Do you have a
Okay.
question? Would you like me to ask mine?
I'm sorry, yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. Just feeding off of what Mr. Chastain said about the blue building at the end of his segment. It seems like the blue building's always talked about when it's an election time, and nothing really gets done since then. It's been since 2009 when the police department moved out, November of 2009. So we're about 1 month away from 11 years of that building being vacant. So what are your thoughts? If you had your way, you're the king. What should be done with the blue building, in your opinion?
It's my understanding that there's at least one private investor interested in purchasing the property. For what exactly, I'm not sure. That information has not been divulged to me. I think that's a great start if someone wants to purchase it from the city. Next, a vision of mine has been for the city and the county to work together and perhaps build a justice center that could house newer, more up-to-date courthouses, legal facilities that would take the burden off the aging courthouse that we have on Court Square. So those are a couple of ideas that have come across my mind over the last few years.
Okay, Mr. Wood, what are your thoughts on what should happen with the blue building?
That is the most reconnoitered building on the planet. It has been studied more times than the surface of the moon. It needs to be in private hands and off the city tax dollar. We're not getting a penny for that building. It's not doing the taxpayers any good sitting there. The building is actually in such bad shape when Norman Rohn was mayor, He was chairman of MTAS, and they agreed to write one policy for one more year for $150,000 on the entire building, and that was for debris removal. We couldn't even buy insurance on the building anymore. So if anyone would actually want the building to renovate, I doubt it. That's been looked at several times. There was a Strategic Wire or some company that looked at it. Whatever happens with it, it needs to get back to where it's paying property taxes into the city. Because that's the only way the city is going to grow, like I said earlier, is develop what little bit of property is still left. Taxes and fees, that's the only way a government survives. And it's not doing us any good sitting there like it is. I read a report in the paper not long ago about the roof having issues again. Underlayment starting to rot. So we don't want to just sit it there and let it fall in on itself.
Let's move on. We just got a call or a text message from one of the viewers on Facebook Live saying that we're having a little audio issue. So one thing, Brooke, if you could bring up the on-stage audio just a bit, and gentlemen, pull those microphones up a little bit closer. Billy especially, you're...
Please talk directly into your microphones.
Yeah, there you go. That's some good advice.
Thank
Was
you,
that
Joe.
Casey? Okay. Yeah, pull those microphones up, talk into the microphones if you want to be heard. Okay, I think it's Mr. Simmons' time to answer that question.
Yes, it goes to Mr. Simmons. What are your thoughts on what should be done with the blue building?
In a perfect world where the city's flush with cash and everything, I think the perfect move would be to put a police department and a fire department there, make the fire department a city garage, and that way, both departments get something new for their own. Like I said, that would boost morale. But for where we're at, I think we're better off if we sell it to a private developer, like Mr. Wood said, so that we can get tax revenue off of it. Instead of increasing taxes on the people that we have, what we need to work on is expanding our tax base. And that's kind of where I would like to go with the blue building property.
Any more
Okay.
questions, James?
No, I'm going to defer to you. You have something you'd like to ask, don't you?
Yes, I have a little follow-up question. You can answer this question in 10 seconds. We've talked about the blue building. We've gone 11 years with the blue building vacant. It's just deteriorated over the time. I think we've had as many as 7 professional real estate studies on that building. We still haven't taken action. If you are elected mayor, would you put a proposal before your city council within your first 3 months on the job, a definitive proposal, a recommendation for action on the blue building? Let's go first to Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Okay. You got that done quick.
Yes.
Mr. Woods, yes?
Yes.
Okay. 3 yeses for a specific proposal and recommendation for action on the blue building within your first 3 months. James, any further questions from you?
Not for me.
Okay, let's do this real quickly. The indoor swimming pool has always been an issue. We missed it the first time around when we, years ago, started some renovations. We supposedly didn't have money to incorporate it in the current expansion and renovation of what's now the Milner Family Recreation Center. So let's start with Mr. Chastain. Indoor pool, take 30 seconds to tell us what you would propose on that.
Essentially, we could not do that logistically in conjunction with the current Civic Center project, according to the engineers. It is not out of the realm of the possibility in the future. And like with everything else, like the dog park, the skate park, the Wi-Fi, the boat ramp, there are grants for everything, even aquatic centers available from the federal and state government. So those are some financial opportunities that we need to explore for the
Okay.
city to pursue that project.
Okay, Mr. Wood? Indoor swimming pool.
We have an Olympic medalist living in McMinnville. We could use an indoor Olympic pool, but at the same time, we need a warm water, shallow, low-impact pool for aerobics for our elderly folks. Anything is doable. If we do, like I said earlier, you've got to get your budgets. You
Okay.
can't do it without money.
Okay, Mr. Simmons?
As long as it's financially feasible. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we have to look in for every project going forward. Whoever wins has kind of been put in a bind financially just based off the Civic Center expansion, and that's something we'll all have to deal with. no more complaining about it, but something we'll deal with. And, you know, you talk about the debt service payments on the Civic Center, and then you're going to look at expanded services at the Civic Center. So their yearly budget is going to go up as well. You know, Mr. Chastain talks about the grants and stuff for all these parks. A grant for the indoor pool would be great, but after we have the grant to build it, we have to staff it, and that costs money as well.
Okay. Is that all for you, James? Anything else?
Yes, sir. Did you have a question?
I'm good.
We should give them time for a close.
Okay, let's go to the close, and you have 2 minutes, is that right, for your closing statement?
That sounds good.
Seth, green light for 1.5 minutes, then yellow light for the last 30 seconds, okay? 2 minutes, and what order? Are we going to Mr. Simmons?
Yeah, let's start with Mr.
Okay,
Simmons,
Mr.
because
Simmons.
that'll be reversed order.
2 minutes, and please keep your eye on the light tower.
I think going into this election, the question that I've been shocked that we don't get asked in debates is why. Because that's the biggest question I get on a daily basis at the restaurants. Why do you want to run for mayor? For all the pitfalls that it has of, you know, taking up your time and everything, why do you want to run for mayor? And for me, it's just a sense of public service. It's been something that's been instilled in me as a young kid. You know, obviously my grandfather, Dr. Rowan, was mayor for 16 years. My stepfather was a cop for 40 years. It's something that, you know, I was kind of taught at a young age that if you can do for people, you should. And at this point in time, something needs to be done with the city of McMinnville, and I believe I'm the right person to lead it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Wood.
It's public service. You do it because you care. There is no other reason. I've raised my family here. Dr. Smoot delivered me on Main Street, probably like half the other people in Warren County. I've lived my life here. We've had our life here. We've raised our children here. I plan on being buried here. It's public service. You do it because you care. There is no other reason. There is no other reason. And as I said before, we have to have amenities for our youth while looking out for those raising their children and taking care of folks on a fixed income. There's, you know, a lot of arguments back and forth what to do with this and, you know, grants, et cetera. You know, most grants are matching grants. There are things you can do and things you cannot do, but it all comes back to one key word, and that's been able to finance it without raising taxes. And those are the things that concern most people that I talk to the most. That's why I ran for office.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. Mr. Chastain.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 6 years serving the city of McMinnville, and I think in that time it's very evident that McMinnville has improved itself significantly. I want to be the next mayor to ensure that we continue to do so. As a nurse, I could have gone anywhere and done anything in healthcare, but my wife and I chose to stay home in McMinnville and invest in the community that had given us so much. And I hope you, the voters, will take the same chance on me and allow me the opportunity to lead this community into the future together. When heading to the polls this week for early voting and on Election Day, please put your trust in me, Ryle Chastain. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I'd like to call on our live audience here at Warren County High School Auditorium to show their appreciation for these candidates coming here this evening.
And Bill, just a quick shout out to Miss Connie Terry. That woman has worked herself to death getting this together. So
She may be the most indispensable person in the Warren County school system.
I think so.
She knows where all those keys go. She carries around 20 pounds of keys. Okay, we're going to do a stage set, and Miss Connie will be doing that. When she has the stage set, we'll have the tables removed. We'll have a lectern in the middle of the table and in the middle of the stage, and then we'll have 8 chairs behind that lectern. So as soon as those tables are pulled back and we have the chairs in place and the lecterns there, we're going to ask our aldermanic candidates, all 8 of them, to take their place. The speaking order is Rachel Kirby, Carrie Curtis Morton, Stacey Harvey, Jay Medley, Dennis Crondledge, Sally Brock, Nathan Maxwell, and Ricky Jones. Okay, we've got some good public servants helping with the stage reset. I'm wearing my pink tie this evening because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's a major concentration calling public attention to breast cancer and what everyone can do for early detection, treatment, and prevention. So we'd like to call attention to the fact that at River Park Hospital, St. Thomas River Park Hospital, there is a program that's set up in conjunction with the Susan B. Komen Foundation, one of the major leading edge research and charitable organizations for breast cancer. And if you cannot afford, and you don't have insurance, and you can't afford the normal cost of the mammogram, the technical aspect, and the professional reading of the mammogram results, if you will go to River Park Hospital and ask for an application, a quick, simple application, fill that out, and they will determine if you are eligible for the free mammogram and the reading. This is made possible, here again, with the Susan B. Komen Foundation and the employees at St. Thomas River Park Hospital. They confront every day the results of breast cancer that was not detected in time and that metastasized. So they're very, very much concentrated in a very sincere and fervent effort to improve the health of our community. And that starts with individuals taking care of themselves, and one way you do that is with the mammogram, self-examination, and following all of the procedures and precautions and recommendations of the public health experts. Here again, tomorrow, October 13th, is Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day, right here in the middle of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So with all that said, and again, check with St. Thomas River Park Hospital, you may qualify for that free mammogram testing. So with that said, James, let's get our candidates for McMinnville Alderman on the stage.
All right.
All right, now we're going to say once again, when you go to the lectern to speak, use that microphone. Get friendly with the microphone.
Did we draw for speaking order?
Yes, we do have the speaking order.
Okay, great.
And I'll announce that once again. Seth Wright took care of that very efficiently, as he always does. In chair 1, that'll be on stage right, let's have Rachel Kirby. In chair 2, on stage right, Carrie Curtis Morton. Seat 3, Stacey Harvey. Seat 4, Jay Medley. Seat 5, Dennis Crondledge. 6 goes to Sally Brock. 7 to Nathan Maxwell. And rounding out this race, Ricky Jones in chair 8. I think everybody's in position. Now, we seem not to have Rachel Kirby and Carrie Curtis Morton. Oh, okay. Carrie, what I'm showing here is you're in chair 2. Okay, let's do that again. Rachel Kirby in 1. That's stage right. What I said is stage right, which is to my left. That's house left. Okay, number 1, Rachel Kirby. Where's Rachel? Okay, Rachel. Right over there, that stage right, house left, stage right. Go all the way over. Okay, let's do a little brain check here to make sure we're all in the right place. Okay, Rachel Kirby, Carrie Curtis Morton, Stacey Harvey, Jay Medley. Okay, number 5, Dennis Crondledge. Okay, Sally Brock. Number 7, Nathan Maxwell. And number 8, Ricky Jones. Okay, we're all set. Everybody take a seat. And what is our timing here, James? Opening statement and then questions. What's the procedure?
Yes, they'll get 4 minutes to make an opening statement. It's your 4 minutes. You can talk about city policy. You can talk about your grandkids. You can talk about whatever you like. It's your 4 minutes. And then we'll ask all of them. I've got 2 questions. I don't know if you've got a question, but I'd like to save all the standing up and getting down. I'll just ask the 2 questions and you can answer them both at the same time.
Okay. And when you ask your 2 questions, I'm going to have 1 question to follow up on that. And so just keep these questions in mind. We're going to try to minimize the getting up and sitting down. Because of the COVID precautions, we are asking everyone to keep your face mask on except when you're at the lectern and speaking in compliance with Warren County School System policy. Okay, are you ready, James?
I think so.
Before we start, we got to do a bidding of the Federal Communications Commission and mention that this is a live broadcast on Public Radio 91.3 WCPI. This is the political forum and debate held in conjunction with the Southern Standard and WCPI 91.3, and welcoming our media partner WCS-TV, which is streaming live on Channel 180, Ben Lomond Channel 180, and is uploading to YouTube, and also on Facebook Live through the Southern Standard. All right, with all that said, James, you ready to get started?
I think we're ready. with
Okay,
our
number
first
one
speaker.
is Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Pull that microphone a little bit closer to you. Brooke, we may have to put a little bit more power on that lectern mic. Okay, let's try it now.
Good evening.
Good, okay, that works. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. My name is Rachel Hoover Kirby, and I'm currently serving as an alderman for the city of McMinnville. I was appointed to the board 2 years ago by Mayor Newman, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. I was born and raised here in McMinnville, went to school here, and graduated from the high school. I worked winters on Main Street at Mike Niederhauser's China and Gift Store, and I worked summers at the city pool. My father was a businessman on the square, and my mother was a teacher. I went on to college at the University of the South and majored in political science and continued on to law school in Birmingham, Alabama. I came back to McMinnville, married Bobby Kirby, and raised 3 children here. I've now been practicing law for 20 years in juvenile court, mostly indigent defense and dependent and neglected children. Currently, I'm on the board of Kids of the Community. I was on the founding board for the Children's Advocacy Center, where they conduct forensic interviews of children that have been sexually abused. For the city, I am chairman of the Building and Grounds Committee, and I also sit on the Safety Committee and Water and Sewer. I'm a member of the Planning Commission and the Historic Zoning Board. I've learned a lot in 2 years, and a lot has happened in 2 years, starting literally with the Civic Center remodel, which will be completed and ready to open in November. If you look around that entire area, you will see that every ball field is in use by ball teams and family groups every day and every night. In the late afternoon, you can see the kids walking with their skateboards up to the skateboard park. I'd like to name just a few other things that are new or underway by the city. The brand new dog park, which was mostly gift and grant money. The new bike lanes that the state will be doing with grant money. The new murals, grant money. Rocket Park, there's a plan for renovation and for it to become a gorgeous complex by grant money. There are new bathrooms on the greenways done in-house, and hopefully an indoor pool coming soon. Downtown is growing, City Hall has been remodeled, and the police department will be happily moving into there soon, as soon as the renovations are complete. They are very satisfied with this move. There is new construction on both ends of downtown, from the new pharmacy to the 5 storefronts that will go into the Fraley's building. And the new Black History Museum is opening soon. There's also new construction from Newtown to the new hotel from across the hospital. We have a great fire department and a great police department and a low crime rate. We have strong department heads and a versatile and experienced workforce. Our finances are strong, and we have a great cash balance with no tax increase. And even with this awful COVID that has hurt so many people and so many economies, our revenues have remained steady and strong. I have learned that it's about problem solving and vision, and creating plans and making them work amongst all the moving parts. I'd like to continue moving forward in this way and reinvesting in our community and our people. We've had a strong, unified, and progressive board that has worked together for these things, and I'm proud of these accomplishments. I would respectfully ask, and I would appreciate your vote in November. I'm easy to find if you have any questions or concerns. Please feel free to contact me soon. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your vote in November. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kirby. Now, we're going to go ahead and do the questions now, or?
No, we're going to let them all do their opening statement.
Okay, fine. Okay. James, could you move the light tower over left or right of the lectern? The can't see it here. We can't blame them for not complying if they can't see the light. It has a short power cord, okay. Okay. I think the manufacturer shortchanged it a little bit on the power cord there, Seth. Okay, $9, okay. We could afford to buy an extension cord, couldn't we? All right. Okay, if we're ready, Carrie Curtis Morton. And remember, everybody stay close to that microphone, please.
I don't usually need a microphone. I'm pretty loud. Good evening. I want to thank the radio station and the newspaper and WCSTV for having us this evening to be able to speak to you. It is important that everybody understands that voting, you need to understand who you're voting for when you go to the polls. Most of us have been guilty of this in times past. If you get there and you're like, oh, I'm not sure who I should have voted for. So I do appreciate the opportunity to come this afternoon. I'm Carrie Curtis Morton, and I want to be one of your next aldermen. I'm a small business owner of almost 20 years in the service industry. I know how to stick to a budget and to do a payroll. I have had a leadership role in Relay for Life for over 10 years in the logistical role planning for this event. I am also on the board of the Harrison Ferry Volunteer Fire Department and Community Center, serving as their secretary. I have a strong Christian values, and I'm a member of the Mount Leo Church of Christ. I'm a wife, mother, and grandmother. Within our city, we have some infrastructure issues. My business has been affected by stormwater. In search for answers, I started attending alderman meetings. I have been attending these meetings for 3 years, trying to learn what I could do to try to help find solutions to this problem. I don't think anybody was surprised when I decided to run for this office. Stormwater drainage has become a problem lately with the amounts of rainfall we get in a short period of time. I'm sure many of you have seen our city streets flooded and may know of other businesses or homeowners affected by this. We also have sewer lines in great need of repair. I've personally seen and also heard in meetings where this is called property owners, hours of cleanup, and costly repairs. Properly functioning infrastructure is needed for growth. Development, either housing or commercial, must have these necessities. I will work with department leaders to find solutions to these ongoing problems. I will cut out wasteful spending by prioritizing departmental needs. As I said, I'm a business owner and understand you must put needs before wants. I have sit in on some of the budget meetings and seen the most crucial of our departments underfunded for the job we ask them to do. I'm concerned about the enormous amounts of money already spent on the property and projects. We must get hard-earned tax dollars being spent under control. I also want to help bring new industry and jobs to our city. When reading in the newspaper the poverty level in our community, that is also a huge concern. Poverty leads to other serious issues like drug addiction. This not only affects the person in general, but the families in our community in a whole. Young families need good paying job opportunities, and many leave for lack thereof. In attending alderman meetings, I also see the need for better communication to the residents in McMinnville, whether it be through social media or monthly meet and greets. I want this newly elected government to be more involved throughout the community. This city belongs to the people, and I want them to feel more a part of it. I urge residents and business owners in McMinnville to get involved. I got involved due to an issue, and I want to help find solutions. A community is only as good as the leadership that guides it. I am a lifelong resident and have been blessed by having very strong leadership roles in my family, from teachers, and also co-workers. McMinnville is a great place to live, and I see opportunities to make it even better. There will be challenges ahead, and I want to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I'm a hard worker, as seen in both my professional and volunteer life. I would greatly appreciate your vote, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Carrie Curtis Morton. We'll go to speaker number 3. We started this evening with a random drawing for speaking order. Mr. Stacey Harvey has number 3. Mr. Harvey, here again, get close to that microphone. You can adjust it.
Thank everybody for allowing me here the privilege of speaking tonight. I'm Stacey Harvey. I live on Sunset Drive. I was born at Warren County Hospital and was raised in the Faulkner Springs area. My grandparents are Bill and Molly Krim, Mac and May Sparkman, and Frank and Lorraine Harvey, all are from right here in McMinnville. My wife is Debbie Harvey. She's a physical therapist with NHC Home Care. We have 3 children, Allie, Jacob, and Brady. All are college graduates, with Allie working on her acceptance to dental school, Jacob currently in medical school in Virginia, and Brady obtaining a postgrad degree at ETSU. I bring to this stage tonight a desire to be part of the solution to the problems we face in our small city. Problems that I believe most small cities of our size and our demographics face all over this country, but they're problems nonetheless. Problems we must deal with as a community, and the ones that I see are as follows. Infrastructure. There's been a lot of talk about that tonight. It's generally regarded as streets, stormwater sewers, sanitary sewers, water lines, gas lines, culverts, and bridges. This entire town's rotting down around us every day. When was the last time that you saw a really aggressive street, road, and bridge campaign here? I can't think of it. I believe the current budget figures are $250,000 a year for road resurfacing in McMinnville. With a city with over 289 streets, that's just not going to get it. We also have a lack of affordable housing here. You know, it seems that you need affordable housing for young folks and you need affordable housing for older folks because, as my wife, the physical therapist, tells me, a lot of people age out of their house. They have no ability to get around in a wheelchair. And so we need to have an ability for our young people to have affordable housing, but then we need to have an ability for our older people to be able to downsize into housing that they can afford and then free up their bigger, older homes for growing families. We have to take care of both ends of that spectrum. That's my opinion on that. Tax base expansion. I don't know about you, but I don't think $12 generals are getting it done for tax base expansion around here. If we do grow the tax base, if we don't grow the tax base, we're just going to have to tax the older population, which we have disproportionate to other counties our size. We're just going to have to tax the older population more, and that's not the time of your life when you want to see your liabilities go up. Typically, that's when you want to see your liabilities go down and your quality of life go up. By the Dodge reports, there are about 30 new homes built a year in the city limits of Warren County. This is a national report that gets every city and every county in the entire country. I get those and have gotten those for over 18 years in my business. Another issue that we have is homelessness. I don't know how many people feel this way, but I don't like driving through my town seeing people over and over, the same ones that I know are homeless. I don't understand why we're such a small community and we can't help. I think that that's a big issue. And I really believe that the feel-good projects have to take a back seat to prioritize spending. A lot of that's been talked about tonight. I'm not going to belabor that point at all. But I do believe that one of the solutions here is that we have to get our community more involved in the decision-making process. A room full of 7 people cannot make decisions effectively for 13,000. Everybody out there that's listening tonight, you've got to get more involved. You've got to give feedback. And I intend to be one of the ones that's going to solicit your feedback. Thank you very much. I'd appreciate your support.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stacey Harvey. Let's go to number 4, Jay Medley, if you'd step up. Okay. Here again, Mr. Medley, got that microphone adjusted. There
Good
you
evening. My name is Jay Medley. I'm a lifelong citizen of Warren County, and I've lived the majority of my life in the city of McMinnville. I am married to Chancey Medley. We've been married for 11 years and been together for 14 years. We have 2 kids. Kipton is our oldest. He's 10 years old. Tinley is our second. She's 8 years old. They go to Centertown Elementary School. I work at West Warren Viola Utility District. I'm an equipment operator there. My wife, Chancey, she works at Hickory Creek Dental for Dr. John and Dr. Megan Taylor. We are members of Westwood Church of Christ. I've been a member there since I was 14 years old. Outside of work and church, I volunteer my time as a baseball, basketball coach for both my kids and all the youth leagues, the city leagues. My parents are Junior and Penny Medley. My dad, Junior, is a self-employed nurseryman. Spent many years in the restaurant business. When we were growing up, if he wasn't working, he was coaching. It's kind of where I got it from. He coached every youth league sport I ever played in, me and my brother, all the way from youth, middle school, to all the way through high school at Boyd Christian School. He was also an alderman. At 2010, he was voted in. He served until 2012 when him and my mother moved to Viola. My mom is Penny Medley. She's worked at the district attorney for 30 years, working for the victims of crime. I'd say the biggest task she's had in life is raising me and my twin brother and my older sister, and being married to my father, a business owner, and more or less a coach more than anything. I have a twin brother named Sam and an older sister named Holly. Sam and his wife recently moved to Carthage, Tennessee, where he works in communications for NiStar Mining Group, and Tia is a teacher at Smith County High School. My sister Holly works at the trustee's office for Miss Darlene Bryant, and her husband works for Caney Fork Electric. The question I've been asked more than anything, I think Brett Simmons said it too, was, why are you doing this? For the most part, I've just said, basically, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and right now just seemed the right time to do it. Even though that is the truth, I've thought a lot more about how to really answer that question. I do not have a personal agenda for or against any issue the past board has faced or the new board will face. I want to serve on this board to work with my fellow aldermen. I want to ensure an efficient government to make sure that all the essential services are being provided to our citizens. I always want to be a part of the solution to the challenging issues. I know from owning my own business the importance of working within your budget and not overspending. I also know when overspending happens, because it will, it takes discipline and time to overcome deficits, but I also know it's possible. I'm not going to stand here today and tell you I have all the answers, because I don't. I haven't been an alderman. I have a lot to learn, but that's my promise to you that if I am elected, I will begin with an open mind, and I will listen and learn. My votes will be based on the facts of what I believe to be in the best interests of the citizens of McMinnville. I want you to know that I am proud to be a citizen of McMinnville. This city is amazing. I've heard some say this board wants to be progressive in nature. I believe that progress this city has seen is the direct result of the citizens that are investing in McMinnville. They are the backbone to progress, and I'm excited to see all the new businesses that have opened downtown Main Street. McMinnville's not just limited to Main Street. We have businesses throughout the city that have worked hard to keep their doors open during this pandemic. And we have new businesses open in the areas of the city. It's an exciting time for McMinnville. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That's Jay Medley. Okay. Dennis Crondledge, speaker number 5. Okay, thank you, Mr. Crondledge. Here again, adjust the microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Dennis Crondledge, and I want to represent and serve you as one of your new aldermen. Why? Because I believe I have a record of dedication and service to this community and the requisite education, training, and experience to continue McMinnville on an upward trend of progress and improved quality of life. If you are like me and are tired of the naysayers who keep telling us what McMinnville can't be, then please consider my candidacy. I'm a retired single guy whose family is literally this community. I have the time, the drive, and the desire to give our city my undivided attention. I'm a former attorney with 32 years' experience practicing in a wide array of specialties, both civil and criminal. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. As a young man, I worked in construction trades. I have been a licensed insurance agent. I have worked for our government as a FEMA disaster inspector and a census worker. I have owned and managed residential rental properties. I've also shown my love and dedication to this community for over a decade through my volunteer service. I have served and continue to serve as a volunteer, board director, and chairman of the McMinnville Warren County Senior Center. I have served a 2-year term as a director and as chairman of the Upper Cumberland Area Agency on Aging and Disability Advisory Board. I am current chairman of the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program Advisory Board. I have delivered meals to the homebound through Meals on Wheels and through the Good Neighbors program of First United Methodist Church. I am a member of First United Methodist Church, where I serve as stewardship chair, as lay leader of a senior ministry, and as liaison to Breakfast Rotary. I am also the president of the Warren County Methodist Laity Club and an active member of Evening Exchange Club. I am no stranger to hard work and service. My desire to serve our city as an alderman is to ensure the continued progress we have realized over the last half dozen years. Look around. We have a revitalized downtown, new businesses, shops, restaurants, a restored Park Theater, a soon-to-be reopened, expanded, and improved Civic Center, and a new motel under construction. I want to see that progress continue. Do we have problems to address? Yes. We have a growing homeless population. We have a housing shortage for nearly all income levels and housing price ranges, as well as many derelict and abandoned properties. And we have a segment of our community that is still mired in poverty and drugs. My pledge to you, if elected, will be to work cooperatively not only with all the members of the Board of Aldermen, but also the other entities, both private and public, that serve our community. Where there is disagreement, I will look for common ground and strive for consensus. We can't go back to the days of the board bickering and opposing factions. My mission as your alderman will be to be a good steward of the public's tax dollars and to continue to seek improvement of McMinnville's services, amenities, and its quality of life for all its residents. I respectfully and humbly ask for your vote. Thank you for your time and consideration. And a big thanks to Southern Standard and WCPI for sponsoring this forum. Let me conclude with this thought. When you consider who you want to serve as your municipal leaders, please scrutinize all the candidates and then choose from those candidates the candidates who you believe will best represent and serve your interest, not just their interest and not just their agenda. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. That is Dennis Crondledge, and number 6 is Sally Brock.
Good evening, everyone, and I want to thank the Southern...
Move that microphone a little bit,
I want to
Sally,
thank the
if you would,
Southern
yeah.
Standard. Is that better, Bill?
There you go. That's
Okay.
good. Thank you.
I want to thank the Southern Standard and WCPI for providing this opportunity to us. I am Sally Brock. I'm running for city alderman, and I'm asking for your vote. After living here for 40 years, I consider McMinnville my hometown. And when I arrived here about 40 years ago, downtown McMinnville was entirely different than it is today, and that's in a better way. I am retired, which means I have the time needed to fulfill the duties of Office of Alderman. I also have 44 years of business experience, including 10 years at the Chamber of Commerce. I consider myself a public servant, not a politician. I'm also a deal maker, not a deal breaker. I'm a volunteer. I serve on the McMinnville Electric System Board of Directors, the Good Neighbors Program at First United Methodist Church. I've served on the Chamber Board. I was the first female president of the Evening Exchange Club and also their first female member. I've served on the Senior Center Board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Planning Commission for the City of McMinnville many years ago. I'm a member of First United Methodist Church and Breakfast Rotary. I served 4 terms on the County Commission, which I feel qualifies me to serve as a city alderman. Our beautiful downtown continues to grow and prosper in spite of the current pandemic and is gaining 2 or 3 new businesses even as I speak this evening. The 50-year-old former Civic Center building has been remodeled, increased in size by 40%, is now ADA compliant, and has been renamed the Milner Recreation Center in honor of the Milner family who has done so much for this city and this county. Our city is financially stable. For instance, the ending balance for year 2018-2019 was $4.8 million, and for the year 2019-2020, it was $4.7 million. That means that both of those years exceeded the $2.5 million the city needs to begin in each new year. There will be a debt ending in 2020 in the amount of $232,000 yearly for the Main Street program, and in 2024 of $40,000 yearly for the removal of the auditorium on the Blue Building. Our police department is relocating downtown to City Hall, saving the city $100,000 annually, and as Rachel stated, they're happy to be there. I want to be involved in our city to keep moving forward by physically being responsible to our taxpayers while providing the services they expect and so deserve. I'm for progress. I'm Sally Brock, and I'm respectfully asking for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sally Brock. Let's all remember to keep our masks on. That's just part of the arrangement we have with the property management here at Warren County High School, that we will observe all of the COVID-19 precautions. Let's go now to speaker number 7, Mr. Nathan Maxwell.
How's that? Thank you, Bill.
Good work.
I'm Nathan Maxwell, and I want to say thank you to all of you who are here or who are listening at home for giving me a chance to tell you about why I'm running for alderman. You know, I grew up here in McMinnville, was born and raised. I graduated from this very high school in 2004. And then I went to Rhodes College in Memphis, and after I graduated, I worked in the banking industry down there for a few years. You know, that was during the financial crisis, which was an interesting learning experience, to say the least. After that, I went back to graduate school to be an economist down the road at Middle Tennessee State, and then at the City University of New York for a few years. And along the time, I was teaching college economics and have continued to do so since then. I moved back to McMinnville a few years ago. You know, my family's here, my people are here, and this is really where I love to be. And when all this started back in the spring, you know, we get a pandemic followed by a really sharp recession, I thought, you know, this is going to be a challenging year for all of us, but that includes the city of McMinnville. But the thing about that, a challenge, this is my second thought, was that oftentimes challenges come with opportunities. If you can make it out the other side, you can come out a lot of times stronger, better than you started, and you can learn a few things along the way. And I think we're in one of those time periods right now where we have some opportunities in front of us. You know, it's really tempting in a crisis like this to kind of stop and freeze and really say we got to hold on and think about what we're doing here. And there's a lot of sense in that. You do need to make sure you don't get into a worse problem than you're already in. And you need to be, if you're a city government, you need to be responsible with your resources and make sure that you maintain a strong fiscal position. But I think it's also important that you keep moving. You keep your eye on the future. Before all this started, I thought our city was in a great position to continue to grow and really strengthen the economy. And I think that we still are. You know, there's a lot of folks, I think, who would look at a place like this and say there's great people, there's a beautiful area, a fairly low cost of living. There's a lot to say about McMinnville that's pretty great. And I think that we can continue to make that happen. But in order to do that, we got to make sure that we continue to make McMinnville the kind of place where people want to live. I think when folks think about what kind of town they want to live in, you know, one of the things they really are looking for is they want a community that they can belong to. I want to have civic organizations that I can be a part of that help me serve my community, practice my faith, you know, look for ways to do creative work in the arts and in music, play sports, explore this beautiful natural area that we have around us, you know, socialize and get to know our friends and neighbors. I want to do all of that, but I also want to be able to make a living. You know, folks want to be able to find good jobs and have good opportunities, not only for themselves, but also one day for their kids. And to make all of that happen, this is not something that the city government can do on its own. It takes everyone sort of working on their piece of the puzzle and then coming together to put it all together. But the city is and should continue to be a partner in that kind of work. This is especially true in a time like today, you know, when we think about how our nonprofits and our businesses, our churches and our schools and all the individual citizens here are having to deal with a lot of really off-the-wall stuff that nobody saw coming and adapt to a lot of different challenges this entire year. And what folks need in a situation like that is they need the city to have their back. I think that we can do that responsibly. I think we can use our resources in an effective way to have the back of our citizens. In fact, I think it would be irresponsible to not do any of that, to give up on sort of looking towards the future. the best way to have a strong city is to have a growing economy and a vibrant community that people want to participate in. I think that my experience as an economist, in the small business community, in banking, and in education for several years, I think that would help me to contribute to those goals. And so that's why I'm running for alderman and asking for your vote. But no matter who gets elected to the board, they can't do this sort of thing alone. And so that's why I hope that all of you, no matter how this election goes, will join with the new board and work to try to make a stronger McMinnville. I know that I will, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we can go together. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Nathan Maxwell. We are right now at 7:30. If you're watching or listening to the live production on this October 12, 2020, the Southern Standard, WCPI 91.3 Candidate Forum and Debate. One last aldermanic candidate to go. We will be electing 3 aldermen to our Board of Mayor and Alderman, as well as the mayor. We have 8 candidates running. And let's go to candidate number 8 in the stacking order, Mr. Ricky Jones.
I guess I better pull this down.
Yeah, okay. Adjust.
As I was sitting there thinking, I know all of these people are very sincere and they want to help our city, and I'm so happy about that. I've lived here all my life. I've worked as a tool and die maker and design engineer for the last 20 years. I own my own business. I love this city, and I've stated once before that I've been from north to south and coast to coast, and I've not seen a better place. This is home. It's a place that I want to retire in, and I love the fact that my children can be here if they so desire. It's a good place to live. Plenty of places in the world to visit, but nothing like home. I want to keep it that way. One of the problems that I have seen recently is that we seem to have a spending problem. We all know our personal budgets at home, we have to make things balance. And I've heard a lot of talk about everything's good. But I can read the paper and I can hear the news on the radio just like anyone else. I realize we have a problem. That needs to be corrected. I'm not against spending. Matter of fact, just to go over a few things, let me just kind of reiterate some things that may have been lost on people. I've served as an alderman from 97 to 2002, and during that time we were attacked 9/11. Our nation was attacked, and the city of McMinnville suffered along with everyone else. We made it through that, but in the process we had a lot of things we had to deal with. We dealt with all of those. We only had $500,000 in our accounts when I got elected. When I left office, we had $1.5 million in reserve. Our water department was on the verge of bankruptcy, and the state showed up at our second meeting to inform us that we needed to take care of that. Well, we were just elected. Now, what are we going to do? There's no money. We worked through that. Not only did we fix that, we took care of the obsolete controls at the water plant. We built a new chemical plant, and we built a new water reservoir on Highway 127. We also did the following without any tax increases. We built a new fire hall, bought a new ladder truck, we bought the Park Theater, we bought the Hole, we built Pepper Branch Park, we also built the Greenway, and we did the downtown streetscape. A lot of people were concerned about that, but we did all those things because the town needed it. When I grew up here, it seemed like the town would never move forward. I was part of a group, and I'm happy to say that we worked hard at getting us out of that mold and bringing us into the modern age. All of those things I mentioned were done without tax increases. We also built a new swimming pool. Farmers Market, we implemented a new garbage collection system. If you think about it, that's a lot. We can do these things, and I want to continue to do these things, but we have to balance our budget first. That's the primary thing. So don't paint me as someone who doesn't like doing things or don't like spending the money. I like to spend money just like anybody else. But I want our city to be sound financially. I want to be able to retire here. I don't want to have to be worried or worrying about other people in retirement losing their homes because they can't afford the taxes. We need to be honest about this. Let's keep this city in a physically financial sound place so that we can enjoy and our children and grandchildren can enjoy it as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ricky Jones. And that rounds out the field of 8 candidates for the 3 aldermanic seats that we'll be filling November 3rd with early voting starting October 14.
It's Wednesday, starts this Wednesday.
And goes till when?
The 27th or the 29th, I can't remember which one.
Okay, well, you can call the
20
election commission. Does
The 29th, I'm
okay,
hearing from the
thank you.
crowd, yes.
Audience participation, thank you.
We'll all get it here.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the questions. In what order do you want to do the questions, James?
I guess we should reverse it, shouldn't we?
Okay,
And
that
start with
suits me.
Mr. Jones?
Okay, now, you're going to give them questions, and they will stay until all the questions are answered, stay at the podium, each candidate, right?
Yeah, it'll just be a 2-part question.
Okay.
Not really, I guess not 2-part might not be the best way because they're not related. But being a proud McMinnville voter, I'm going to have to go to the polls and choose 3 of the 8 of y'all. Whether it's deep connections with the governor or work experience or whatnot, why should I vote for you starting Wednesday if I choose? So that's one part of it. Why are you a good candidate for the job and why should I vote for you? And the second part, if elected, you'll have 4 years on your hand. I know you're just one of 7 votes on the city board, but if it was up to you, what is one thing over the next 4 years that you would like to see accomplished? So kind of a 2-part question. 1, why should I vote for you? What's the best qualifications? And 2, can you name just one single thing, if you had your choice, that you would like to see done over the next 4 years?
Okay, have you got that? Just 2 questions. Ricky Jones steps up to the podium.
Okay, why should you vote for me? I'll just give you a list of some qualifications and things that we'd completed while I was in office. It was a learning experience, I'll grant you that. Nothing like going through the fire. But I feel I'm very well qualified to work with the city board and the mayor to bring about any kind of projects that need to be brought about. But I also want to be able to balance our budget so that we can continue to do these things that we want to do. We talked about an indoor pool and several other things. We also need to take care of maintenance. That's one of the issues that seems to get pushed under the rug every time. That is one of the things that I want to see done in the 4 years I'm there, is the streets, sidewalks, and many other issues. I tried to get a consensus on rebuilding the sidewalks when I was there before, but we had so many things on our plate. That got pushed aside, and evidently it's been pushed outside the doors ever since then because nobody's picked it up. But I would like to see that done. And also, as the mayor's candidates were talking about the blue building, that thing needs to be put on the auction block, I think, and let's that go back onto the tax rolls. Thank you.
Okay, that's Ricky Jones. Okay, Mr. Maxwell.
I think that the main thing that I bring to the table is I have a pretty wide array of experience in some different ways. I grew up around small business and have been in that part of that community for a long time. My training is as an economist, and I think that that will be useful as we kind of move through this recession that we're dealing with and try to see how can we best make it through that. I've been in education, I continue to teach classes, so I see a lot of what our local students and young folks, what they try to do and where they want to go and the goals that they're trying to achieve. And I want to make sure that they have opportunities here that allow us to keep talented folks who want to stay here and work. And so that's I think my main qualification. As far as what I would like to see done, I think the first priority for me is we've been dealing with all of this. I'm concerned about what's going to happen to a lot of the local businesses in different industries that have been really affected by this. A lot of our nonprofits and other kind of civic organizations, this has been a really hard year. And I want to see the damage there minimized. I want to make sure that this community comes through with as much of, our civic organizations and small businesses and businesses of all types in good shape, because this has been a really brutal year, and we don't know exactly where it's going to go from here. And the city government can't fix all that on its own, but it can play a role. And it can also make sure that the needs and the concerns of the people who live here in the city are passed on to sort of higher levels of government as well, so that we put a little weight behind the sort of things that are affecting the citizens of McMinnville and Warren County and our community. We want to make sure that everybody's getting their voice heard when we are dealing with all the things that we've been dealing with all year. And so that's sort of what I would have as the first goal, is to make sure that we preserve as much of our city and the folks that make up our community as we can. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nathan Maxwell. Sally Brock.
I have to say, first and
Pull
foremost,
that microphone down just a little
sorry,
bit, Sally.
Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Why I think you should vote for me. I am an older person. I've had a lot of experience. I've had an abundant experience in government. Not necessarily city, but government is government. And I did spend 4 terms on the county commission and served on many committees in that time. The one thing that I think I would want us to do is probably infrastructure. And that does include roads and sidewalks and sewer lines and water lines and so forth. And I know that there's some grant money to do that with, and I think we can use that. And of course, I'm concerned about our citizens here. But I don't know how much the city can do for individuals as far as bringing their business back. I'm not sure about that. If there's more government money for that coming down from above, I think that would be a wonderful thing, and we could help with that. And I do not have a particular agenda. That's not why I'm running. I'm running because I am a public servant. I have been, I continue to be, and that's what I like to do. Thank you.
Okay, Sally Brock. Next, Dennis Crondledge.
To answer the first question, why am I a good candidate? I think I have a demonstrated willingness and desire to serve. I also have a very varied life experience with a lot of experience in different areas, both work and my career as a lawyer brought me into contact. I was a blue-collar lawyer. I represented the people and in all kinds of situations. And so I think I have a pretty good read on people and their needs and their desires. So I think this makes me a good fit for this office, because we have some problems that we have to address, and sometimes there are people we tend to not consider. They're marginalized. You know, they don't vote, but you know what? They're still our constituents, and they're still residents, and we have to serve them also. What do I hope to accomplish in 4 years a 4-year term? And let me add, talking about a 4-year term, it's no surprise that I'm not engaging on a political career at this time of my life. I have no desire to serve higher office. I want to just serve McMinnville. We have a housing problem. I mentioned it in my opening statement. We have homeless. We have a housing problem on a multi-level way. I mean, first of all, you know, it's one thing to say we're going to attract people to live here, but where are they going to live? You know, there is a shortage of housing at all income levels, you know, from the upper end to the lower end. And affordable housing, too, is a real issue, and that's why we're beginning to see homeless in our, you know, there are 3 homeless encampments in the city now. Don't know if you're aware of that. I mean, we need some affordable housing. I've already talked to some contractors. I've talked to the public McMinnville Housing Authority, Patricia Basham, about, you know, what can we do if we can find properties where we can build, or maybe tear down some derelict properties and put up some tiny homes I know there's zoning issues, but I think we can work around those. And you can put up a house for about $15,000 to $20,000, and you can put a number on them on a small lot. Those are some of the things we need to explore. Thank you.
Okay, Dennis Crondledge, thank you, sir. Now, Mr. J. Medley.
Why you should vote for me? I believe that I'm an open-minded person, willing to use the facts that we're given on a daily basis to make the decisions that would be best for our citizens' needs, not just for one person's agenda or the agenda we're looking for. As far as what I would like to see done in 4 years, I know James said one thing, but I'm gonna give you two. I would like to see our utility workers and city employees get the raises they deserve. I think maybe Ryle or Brett may have said that it's been 2 years since they've got any kind of raise. I mean, if you can't keep city employees, then you have no city government. Another is our police department. I think 1 out of the last 10 police officers we've hired have been from McMinnville. Everybody else has been from out of town, out of Warren County. We need to put more effort into making our police department somewhere where people want to work, where they want to stay here, not come to work here and then go to Cookville or Murfreesboro, somewhere bigger place. So I think we need to really put a lot of effort and focus into making the city of McMinnville somewhere these people want to stay and work and build their careers. So thank you.
Okay, Jay Medley, thank you, sir. Now, Stacey Harvey.
Well, why should you elect me as an alderman? I moved back here in 1992 after living in Fort Worth, Texas, and Kissimmee, Florida. I moved back here in 1992 only because at that time I thought I could start my own business and come here and raise a family. I can't be the only one that's wanted to move back to their hometown, start a business, and raise a family. And I've done that, and I've done that successfully. But moreover, why you should elect me as your alderman is I'm not knocking anybody up here on the stage, but I started a business that's highly technical in this town, funded it very, very tightly. And I've paid over $45 million in payroll to residents of Warren County. I brought in over $1.6 million in local sales and use tax. In my business, I make payroll every week. I work with tons of blue-collar folks, white-collar folks. I think I have a really good view about the cross-section of what it takes to run a business in this town and also to deal with the people that live in this town. I believe I know what people want, and I believe I can deliver on that.
Okay, thank you so much, Stacey Harvey. And let's go to Carrie Curtis Morton. And let's all remember to be masked up. Here again, we just need to comply with the building rules if we can. Thank you.
It's hard to go after a tall person. Why should you vote for me? First of all, I bring a lot of energy to the board. In my business experience, I do research before jumping into anything. That's what I've done. I've been going to the meetings. I've put in my time to try to familiarize myself with what's going on in the city government. I've enjoyed going to the city alderman meetings. Sometimes I leave with a headache. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes some things come up and it kind of gives me a headache when I leave. But learning everything that happens in those meetings and the responsibility that's put on the board, it's huge. It's a big responsibility. They deal with a lot of money. They deal with a lot of people. So I feel like I'm ready to jump in and do that job. What I would like to see happen is our infrastructure. That is my main concern, is our infrastructure here in our town. I don't like seeing the streets flooded, the sewer lines being messed up. The department people that we have, the leaders in the departments that we have right now are awesome. I think we've got a good group of leaders in those departments, and they can be worked with. They just need a good board behind them. Thank you.
Okay. Carrie Curtis Morton, thank you, ma'am. And we're going to Rachel Kirby, winding up where we started this evening.
Why you should elect me is that, first of all, I have experience from being on the board the past 2 years, and there's been a lot to learn. I'm for progress, and I'm for reinvesting back into the community for the benefit of its citizens, such as all the projects that have been initiated and accomplished by the sitting board. the Civic Center remodel, expanding downtown, dog park, tennis court, all the grants that are underway, new bike lanes and mapping of the blueways, and the new kayak launch at Pepper Branch. There's others such as the pumper vac truck, the new digital exploratory equipment, body cameras for the police department. All these things are improvements to the quality of life of our citizens on a daily basis. These things have all been done with a watchful and careful eye on spending. As of June 30th, we had a cash fund balance of $4.6 million, and we are projected to be close to that at the end of the fiscal year. And that's everything paid for, all debt serviced, all employees paid, all city services rendered, plus money given and set aside for social services and contributions like Kids to Community and Home, which helps with the homeless, families in crisis. All properties have been maintained, parks taken care of, ball fields and skate parks open, and a pool that with careful planning managed to stay open during a pandemic. Not to mention that not one employee lost their job or went without pay. Hopefully, as we move past COVID, we can tackle more projects with the addition of an indoor pool and more recycling. My children want to come back here to live and settle down and raise families. 2 of the 3 are back and thrilled about it. So I would continue to reinvest in our community to make it cleaner and greener and more efficient, with an overall better quality of life for our residents that not only pay taxes here, but work and play here as well. I don't know how much time I have left, but as far as the indoor pool goes, that goes without saying. I think the citizens have been clamoring for a pool for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, James, we've been here for an hour and 51 minutes. I think one measure of the effectiveness of a forum like this is for the person like myself who came in here with a pretty good idea of whom I was going to vote for. And I don't know whether my mind was actually totally changed, but I sure was given a lot to think about.
Well, that's good.
And I compliment all of these candidates. I think we have almost an embarrassment of riches, James. 8 really highly qualified, highly motivated candidates for alderman for the 3 slots. Same could be said for our 3 mayoral candidates. And then the 2 candidates looking for that to complete that uncompleted term for the county commission in the 5th district. We are blessed with some high quality candidates.
I can't wait to vote. I might be the first in line on Wednesday.
Well, I think that's the prevailing advice and the conventional wisdom is get out there, vote early, got the job done, got your ballot in. We never know what the next day may bring us. So, again, I want to thank all of our candidates, the aldermanic, the mayoral, the county commission candidates, and I invite the audience here at Warren County High School Auditorium to join me in showing our appreciation to you all. We certainly thank you, and we thank our listeners on WCPI, Public Radio 91.3, the viewers on the Southern Standard's Facebook Live, streaming live, and WCS-TV, Community Channel 180 from the Warren County School System. We appreciate your interest, and of course coverage will be, this being Monday, you'll have plenty of time to get this in the Wednesday edition, James, is that right?
Yes, sir. And they can watch it on Facebook Live, our Southern Standard page.
Okay, that sounds great, and WCS-TV's YouTube service. Again, I want to thank Brooke Grissom, who's handling the house sound and the television production this evening. Joe Harvey may have gotten back into town, but he had to make a quick trip to Nashville this afternoon. Connie Terry, our stage manager and house manager. Richard E. Myers, Richard, over there in the corner, doing the sound production for WCPI. Seth Wright, our timekeeper, and James Clark, my trusty and much esteemed co-host here for this production. And Nikki, thank you. We'll make sure this is on the Southern Standard's Facebook page. Thank you, James, and you have a good night.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay. And again, our thanks to all of the viewers and listeners and the readers to the Southern Standard. This has been a voter education project of the Southern Standard and Public Radio WCPI. For the co-producers and co-hosts, this is Bill Zeckman.